so that's you're here, so.
He's on.
Oh.
So we are recording that.
Oh, isn't it hard? I don't know, my son's Wi-Fi is sometimes.
So this speaker should help. So we have a microphone if we need it. Katie has a microphone. They have a microphone down there. And then people here have a microphone. They just need to turn it on. If we leave it on, is that a bad thing? I think we could leave it on now. So right now it's just okay. So is this a microphone? Like, yeah. It'll broadcast instead of like a sound just broadcasting to them. It is just broadcasting to the phone. So we'll try to.
If you'll please, that I walked out this evening.
Is there anything else I need to know that is there anything that would be? I don't think so.
It still doesn't have an amount, so, oh, you got it. No, it doesn't.
I should be back.
Yeah, you'll read it.
Yeah, we'll read it.
That's different from, is that different from?
Is this from?
It's on the website.
Oh, no, it isn't. No, it's that same.
Yeah.
It would complicate things if they were different. I'm not looking for complications.
I know, I made sure Glenn was gonna make sure she knew she didn't have to be. I was like, can they hear it? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This needs to be turned on. I mean, just to read the motion, right? Right. Let us know. I mean, I was chair, but I wasn't doing it. Right. Okay.
One takes one side, and the other takes the other side.
Should I tell the hours to be?
I'm seeing. It's great service.
There a phone back there? Yeah. No,
All right, so
you get to decide. I just want to make sure you.
yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah,
have
I
to
don't
you
even
what.
Maybe after the speech. I see people waiting.
Oh, right. I'm looking for those ones. I mean, it can go down from this. Yeah, that's like that. Making it tiresome, the weather. But then you'll get a break. What's yours?
But,
Is there a different number?
yeah, text goes, but, you know, I think they're gonna amend it. So that's,
We can change it now.
you know, like,
Okay, look at the more there. I don't know if they have the motions already.
well, no, but they have that.
Right, okay, yeah. I got you.
It's past 7 o'clock and we have a quorum. So we're going to start our 2023 annual town meeting. Welcome. Glad you're all here to conduct the business of the town of Wendell. All right, so
I am Weatherby, clerk of the town of Wendell in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, confirmed that the warrant for the annual town meeting on June 6th was appropriately posted 7 days prior to the date of this meeting. I have received a return of service signed by the select board of the town of Wendell and by Assistant Constable Jan Keller confirming the same.
thank you. So we usually start by introducing the various officials and distinguished visitors who are here. So we'll start with this front table.
Gillian Bedine, select board member.
Lori DiDonato, select board.
Katie Nolan, moderator.
Anna Weatherby, town clerk.
Sylvia, finance committee.
Thomas Richardson, Finance Committee, Al Rack,
The two chambers. Cheryl,
Stephen Roll, Knox Village Road.
the two counters.
Judy Gaylord.
And and he's also the constable. All right, so our town clerk usually gives us the names of the people who have died over the past, since the last annual town meeting.
So I would like to read out the name of our Wendell citizens and residents who passed away since the last time we met together. Please do feel free to add any additional names I may have missed or not known about. Sally Wilder, age 83. Stephen Melito, age 80. Claire Paddock, 79. Lena Odin, age 93. Anna Mary Catherine Barbara Hargens, age 78. Jan Fair, 78. Gretchen Smith, age 70. Michael Lipinski, age 74. Karina Chikopra, age 69. And Richard Diamond, age 58. And before I sit down, it did strike me after getting the notice of Gretchen's passing that I am now the living town clerk of Wendell. And both of my predecessors died within the past year. I would like to take a moment to thank their dedication to acknowledge the hard work of both of them, dating back to 1974 for Irma Hargens, and then back to 2011 for Gretchen. And especially I'd love to send out a special thanks to Gretchen for, although when she left her office to me to take over, she wasn't able to teach me anything personally. Her excellent bookkeeping, amazing filing system, And just absolute attention to detail has made everything able for me to find. And it's like she's with me in the office, holding my hand as I'm doing this job.
So we'll have a moment of silence in memory of these people. And now, we have a town bylaw that allows the moderator to appoint a deputy moderator. And I've appointed Phil Delory as our deputy moderator until the next annual town meeting. And actually, I'd like to have a vote from this body to affirm that appointment. So all in favor of Phil Delory as deputy moderator, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, unanimously approved as deputy moderator. Thank you. So the general rules of our town meeting come from this book. Town Meeting Time gives general guidance on what our process is. So we have a firm reference to go to if there are any questions. Basically, we try to be civil with each other and don't deal in personalities. We ask people if they're able to stand when they are recognized to stand up and state their name and the street they live on. We have a microphone for people to speak to, and it's best if you speak to the microphone, then everyone will be able to hear you clearly. And when you do speak, try to speak, have a clear idea of what you want to say, and try to be brief. It's actually more effective, a brief, clear statement than a long-winded discussion. Let me see what else, what other important things. All voters are eligible to speak, but they must be recognized by the moderator. But non-voters may speak at the discretion of the meeting. And unless I hear an objection, I will recognize non-voters when appropriate. So I don't hear an objection, so I will recognize non-voters. Let me see. And any amendments to motions need to be submitted to the town clerk in writing on these forms. So, right, and she already has one sitting on her desk. I hope everyone has a copy of the warrant. I'm not going to read each article aloud. I'm just going to, there's going to be a motion and a second, and then we'll begin discussion. And I'll refer to the articles maybe in shorthand, like article about town reports or whatever, but I'm not going to be reading it, so you should have this for reference. All right, with that, I think we're ready to begin. So Article 1.
Okay, I am going to try to speak up. I have a mic here. If anyone thinks I need it, let me know. I move that the town votes to accept the reports of town officials as printed in the 2022 annual report. Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Does the finance committee have any recommendation? Okay. Is there any discussion, questions? All right, we'll vote on accepting the town report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that carries unanimously. Article 2.
I move that the town votes to authorize the town treasurer with the approval of the select board to borrow money from time to time in the anticipation of the revenue of the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 4, and to issue a note or notes as may be given for a period of less than 1 year in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 17. Second.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second in the finance committee.
Finance committee recommendation.
Okay, any discussion or comments? All right, we'll vote on allowing the town treasurer to borrow money from time to time. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. So that carries unanimously. Article 3.
I move that the town votes to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements during fiscal year 2024 as permitted by Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Finance committee.
Finance committee recommends this.
All right, discussion, comments. All right, we'll vote on authorizing the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 4.
I move that the town votes to fix the salary, compensation, and expenses of all elected and appointed officials of the town for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, as provided in Mass General Law, Chapter 41, as amended, and that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $3,615,402 from taxation to defray such salaries and expenses for that period.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and I believe the finance committee wanted to make general comments.
So we've been up against some real challenges, as you can expect. So anything that's made more evident in some of the projects that have been taken on that have really risen in costs beyond what anybody could have expected. You know, it's a good indication into the future what we're going to be looking at, and especially against valuations, which have given us a bump, but probably not as much of a bump as we'd like to see. Coming out of this year with reduced stabilization, is you look at the balance for that, down by 200,000, over 200,000 from where we began. And if anything, going into the future, $500,000 stabilization is away awfully quickly to the wrong event. Despite that, we still subsidize the tax rate with $200,000 worth of that stabilization, but we're hoping to reclaim those numbers going into the future. We're still up against challenges that are going to continue as far as the school that has, what, some 50 years old now. And numbers of issues that are going to continue to hit us year after year. And we're still kind of wondering where the money's going to come for that. And safety's first. But without outside money, it's going to be a big question of how we're going to be able to pull that off. I'll have to thank the MLP for helping to shore us up this year, because obviously in the warrant, there's going to be excess monies coming through from that really has made a huge difference for us. And this is just kind of in the nick of time, figuring that federal money is supposed to be coming into the system, probably won't be easing up until next year, where to the tune of 80,000 a year should be coming in for 10 years. I want to thank the NLP for putting that together. It's really making a huge difference for us this year.
Two other things that I just wanted to touch on quick. as I was saying, versus the schools, there's some, fairly large capital improvements that are gonna need to be, coming up pretty soon. So we're gonna be working with New Salem, trying to figure out how we're gonna split that and make sure that we're kind of prioritizing what needs to be completed first. And, what's an immediate need. The other one is the police department. I know we had, Chief Nicola here to talk a little bit on the police budget if needed as well, but that we did have a fairly large increase, so I thought it would be good to just kind of bring that up and make sure everyone was aware. We did go, we raised the expenses about 50% from last year, and that's due to being able to actually split it, being the third year into the contract now. We were able to split it based on call volume. And with that, they were also to do a study on what other expenses are sort of related to that, as in insurance, workman's comp, all those other kind of overhead expenses. And Leverett was kind enough to offer us kind of a decreased first year kind of into this, and so we're paying 50% of our share for this year, and next year we'll be taking on the full burden that we're supposed to bear. So that'll be another $14,000, which is approximately another 18% increase over this year's budget. So just some things coming up there, as well as the school budgets that's kind of soon to be increased.
All right. So with this Article 4 budget, what I'm going to do is divide the question. There are 9 categories listed of expenses, and there's a subtotal for each one. And I'll announce the category and the subtotal. And if people have questions or comments or people want to speak about that category, they should do that at that point, and then we'll vote on that category. And once we voted on it, then that's set. We'll go, if there are any amendments, those amendments will show up in the grand total. We don't have to revote the grand total. We'll vote each section, and the grand total will take care of itself, because we'll have amended one section that will effectively amend the grand total. So we'll start with the first category. And does everyone have a handout? Okay, and the handout shows what was appropriated for 2023, what was requested, and the Finance Committee's recommendation. And the numbers we're working with are the Finance Committee's recommendation. And the far right column is the source, which is RNA, which is raise and appropriate or taxes. And further on, there's some that are S, which is stabilization, or basically our savings account. So we'll start with the first category, which is general government. And that has a total of $300,797. So if people have questions, comments, or the department heads within this category who want to say something about their expenses.
Tanner, Lockville Road.
Doug, just turn on the
Oh, there's a button on it?
on the side. Flip it up.
Okay. Doug Tanner, Lockville Road. Still not working. There we go. Okay, out here. Okay. I'm a planning board member, former finance director. I just have a question about the assessor's expenses, the assessing expenses. I understand that most of that is to the contract we have with RRG. The the way I like to frame this question, that I know that where this came from originally, when our assessors were they were underwater. Basically, there were only two of them, and they were really desperate to try to manage things during COVID, and it was very hard. So we contracted with this company. So what I noticed is that it seems like they just become our assessors. And are doing things without consulting the elected assessors. They'd like the assessors, if there's an assessor here, to explain to us exactly what RRG does and what their responsibilities are versus their responsibilities as elected assessors, and where they expect to see this go in the next few years.
Are there any assessors who would like to speak to that?
Martha Sen, position on board assessors. Was about 2 years ago, I think it was, right after I got elected onto the board, we had a contract with RRG, which was great because at that point, we lost another board member, so we're down to 2 again. And RRG provides us service for doing all the office work, keeping the database up to date. They also do the assessments. They go out and do your inspections, they answer your questions, they help with the data. Because I've only, been on the board 2 years, I'm still learning. I'm now a chair. Then we had 2 other people appointed, and they were still learning. So what the company does is provide us resources that when we have questions, they help get us the answers so that we can make informed, intelligent decisions about what best to do to handle the situations that come up and down. And they do this for a lot of other towns in the area. So we're just one of, I think it's 37, 32? 32. And so, they basically bring us the information that's generated through the assessments and the abatements that come in, and then we act on that. So they help write letters, send things out. Sometimes things get sent out that we haven't necessarily, completely gone through, but that's partly because we don't know on the board exactly what everything is. We're just learning. So they're helping us learn. So there may be some stumbling blocks that we come across, but we're trying to do our best. We're trying to do a fair, equitable evaluation and assessment for both the town people and the town. Because the assessments are based on the property values. And as everyone knows, especially during COVID, a lot of people from cities moved out, outbidding each other. So the property values went skyrocketing. So they helped with that, doing the assessment. And they have gone through and completely cleaned up the database that we use, Patriots. And so they basically identified, because they went to every property this past year, I believe it was, and helped to clean up the database, the data that's in there. So there were some miscellaneous codes that we had no indication as to why they were even on there that were taken off. And I know that affected some people's tax rates or tax assessments, or property assessments. Sorry, it's all terminology. So some people may be happy with that, some may not, but we're trying to do a fair assessment for the town. So without their help and their expertise, we would really be floundering. So they provide us expertise, they answer our questions, but we do have the ultimate decision about abatements and so forth. So we're trying to standardize how we do things, because one of the things I noticed when I first came onto the board was that there didn't seem to be processes in place. And I'm a process-oriented person. I like to be able to do things the same way every time and have it come out the same way. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're still in the learning process. Did that answer your question? Other questions?
No, I'll recognize.
Okay.
It sounds like you were done. But yeah.
I think I answered the questions. Okay, thanks.
Hi, Chris Wings, Westfield Road, and former chair of the assessor. I just wanted to clarify some of the history, because it wasn't because of COVID that we hired RFG. For 17 years, we had a person who worked for the office, and so we had a line item to pay their salary. That person retired abruptly a few years back, and so the assessors, the elected assessors, had to do the work at the end of the year work and for setting the tax rate. After a couple months, we managed to hire another person, but in a small town where you just have a part-time position, it's pretty much impossible to find an experienced assessor to hire. So we hired someone locally who we trained and spent the year training them and paying for their training. And after a year, they were unable to continue with the job. So the assessors were again in a position of doing the tax rate again, which is an enormous amount of work. So at that point, the assessors, we had looked into it previously, and at that point, we decided that it would be better for us to hire RRG, which is a company who does the assessing of what normally your paid staff would do, rather than to continually train people and having to do a lot of burden on the assessors. So that RRG, that expenses now is being paid to a company who takes care of it rather than a person who's an employee of the town. That's really, and so they're doing all of that administrative work. Assessors still have a final decision. They're elected assessors. The people you elect are the people who have all the final decisions of what's happening. Hopefully that's helpful.
Any other questions or comments on general government?
Anything next one?
On their plate for the next year. So it is curious explanation about how they think we're going to handle that with no extra money.
Is there someone from the planning board who could answer that question?
I didn't hear the first half of the question.
Well, looking at the spreadsheet, it looks like we're not asking for any more money for your expenses for the coming year. And by your advertisements of your projects ahead of you this year, it sounds like you may be incurring some expenses which you come back to account for. Am I misinterpreting the numbers or what your plans are?
Planning board, I have to admit, I don't have an answer for this. I too am new to the chair position. Dan kind of handled a lot of things for a long time, and figured out she left rather abruptly also. And then the next chair that took over left rather abruptly also. So I don't know the answer to this question. It may have flown under the radar. Karen?
When you have projects, don't whoever's bringing the project to the planning board, don't they have to pay a fee?
Yes,
Say for.
we don't have a lot of fees. We have our clerk, but other than that, right, anybody who comes to us, there's not really fees for us to pay outside of mailings. Are you talking about the battery storage project kind of specifically, Michael? As a project of ours?
I'm looking at the line item that says your plans are $1,224 to pay expenses.
Right.
for the-
Oh, that's for our clerk. No, oh, what's he?
That's for your general expenses, like if you had to buy stamps or files or whatever.
Right.
Your clerk is part of the shared clerk.
Okay.
That's why that was zero, that line was zeroed out.
Right, okay, so the numbers carry over to, I mean, more than we need or less than we need?
No, it just, the line that says clerk, that's zero.
Yeah.
It's because the planning board
Is
is
now-
now covered by the
Right.
shared clerk.
Right,
But your expense line, it's for general office expenses.
right,
But then if you incur like consultant fees,
Right.
things like that, you generally charge whoever's bringing the project to the table.
yes.
Ends up being responsible for paying those fees, so it's not a town expense.
Right.
Excuse me, would that, for instance, include paying for an attorney to deal with some of the more contentious issues you might have?
Well, I could probably.
Wait, do you want to be recognized to, Molly has the floor?
I'll pass it on, but that was also planning board member.
I would assume there's a possibility that during the course of this project with the batteries and as there are with others, that it could be that the town would need to hire an engineer in order to get an independent opinion. That happens on a lot of different things. We couldn't possibly put that in our budget, and I regret that I joined the planning board too late to be part of the budget process, but if that were to happen, we would have to approach the select board and think and there would have to probably be a special town meeting that would vote to approve those, and it would be a process of vetting and interviewing and all of that too, so it wouldn't be something really, regular budget.
Thank you.
Nina Keller, Fulford Road. I participated with the planning board for a few months because I knew they were down numbers and this battery business was really overwhelming for them. So I thought, until someone runs, I just volunteered to be appointed. In those very few months, I realized that what Michael is saying is a reality, that the planning board has the same with all of our town boards and committees, have a lot of new members, people who are just learning what to do, let alone how to do it. And we discussed in our meetings the benefit of having a specialist the same way the assessors have and other boards have go-to people. And our planning board deserves that and needs it. So I'm just speaking out now, and that would be something the planning board would have to apply to FinCom and select board. And I'm alerting you all now that I hope we will support them because it's too big a job just doing town business, let alone having something like Borrego, New Leaf. Thinking they're coming to our town.
Any more discussion or comments?
Jenny Grove, Stone Road. So with what Nina just said, that's so true. And I'm the select board's representative on the Franklin County Regional Planning Board. And this is a need of expertise of many towns in Franklin County. So I think that an effort should be or could be made with the FERCog to find help for many towns, because the Shutesbury is dealing with what we are, and so is Leverett, and instead of reinventing the wheel. And I have brought it up to the regional planning board that this is a real need, and I believe it's recognized, but it just has to get spearheaded and kind of pushed forward and have it become a service as part of the COG. It's a real need.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? All right, then we'll vote on $300,797 for general government expenses. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that's voted unanimously, passed unanimously. Schools. So that's Swift River School, Ralph C. Mahar, and Franklin County Technical School. And the amount the Finance Committee recommended was $2,065,704. I believe the Finance Committee has an amendment that
Megan Sylvia, Montague Road. I want to move to amend the motion as follows. I'd like to increase the line item, Franklin County Technical Total Assessment to $82,054 based on updated $82,054 based on updated information.
Okay, is there a second for that amendment? Okay, so we have an amendment and a second to increase the technical school budget assessment. Do you want to explain this?
I was just gonna say, there's just an error on our side, we got the wrong number put down, but that's the accurate assessment that we have to pay for.
Can we assume that you left no headroom in the Article 4? Good job.
All right, any questions, comments, discussion about the school's budgets?
One of the questions I have in terms of the leg maintenance that the school's gonna need basically in the future, they were speaking about the costs that are coming. Historically, cost sharing with New Salem has been by pupils, so I'm assuming that's not the new formula, because it has nothing to do with how many people students we're sending, or they're sending for capital cost, so we share equally.
Yeah, so that's the total kind of operating budget is divided by pupil, but the capital expenses are typically divided in a more equal fashion. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, discussion on the school budgets, the three schools? All right, we'll vote on, what is the new subtotal? 2,147,758. All right, we'll vote on the amount of $2,147,758 for schools. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, this is the amended, ooh. I did it, okay, so the amendment, we are voting on the amendment. I jumped a step. All right, so, okay, all those in favor of the amended amount for Franklin County Technical School say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, the amendment carries unanimously. And then we have a total of $2,147,758 as a new subtotal for schools. All those in favor of the amended subtotal for schools say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, we have a unanimous agreement on the subtotal, the new subtotal for schools. Protection, which we have a total of $256,903. Does anyone want to speak to protection, or does anyone have any questions or comments? This includes fire department, police department, tree warden.
Okay, hang on a second, sorry. We have a corrected total, sorry. It's not there. Yeah, 4 schools.
There's with the correction on,
The total for the schools,
yes.
okay. Yeah. 37 there. Okay.
The corrected section is.
Yeah.
078.
Yeah, we added.
Okay, so I'll tell you, why don't you, we have a motion to rescind the vote on that.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
If someone would make that motion, that would be helpful.
Megan Sylvia, Montague Road, I'll make a motion to rescind the vote to, for the previous subtotal that we said was 2,147,000.
Oh, okay, and is there a second? Okay, and discussion on rescinding that subtotal?
Just clerical error of adding and subtracting on the spot. We got 2 eyes on it for games.
It's a better number.
It's,
than
yeah.
that.
It's a better. Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor of rescinding the previous subtotal, say aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, so we've rescinded that previous subtotal. Make it a motion for a new subtotal.
Megan Sylvia, I'll move to, all right, I'll make a motion to approve the new school total. 2,078,388.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that new subtotal? All right, we'll vote. All those in favor of the subtotal for schools of 2,078,388. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, so we have passed that new subtotal unanimously. Okay, we're on to protection. Does anyone have comments, questions, discussion about constable, police department, fire department?
Don Stone from Wendell Road or Michelle Road, Wendell. I'm just curious why the ambulance assessment has gone up so dramatically this year.
So that's based on just how many calls there are with the ambulance and with the call volume, it's just been going up. So that's what they're estimating our assessment to be with sort of the aging population of Wendell. We're kind of expecting to have more and more calls from the EMS.
And who's providing that? Is that from Greenfield or?
That comes from the actual service.
Yes.
I believe that's from Orange, yeah.
Thank you.
Edward Hines, 22 Road. I'm curious about how you come up with the numbers on the assessment. Is it actual calls for service that it's based on, or is it based on actual calls into dispatch?
That is, so are you saying the EMS or?
Police.
Police?
Am I jumping the gun here?
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're on that one. So that one is based on the rolling 3-year average of how many calls have been called in.
Called in service. I have approached the select board in the past about the ever-present high rate of speed on our town's highways, on the roads in town. Our home is 25 feet off the road. I'm on the tractor all the time, and I've come close to collisions half a dozen times in the last couple of years. How does that budget reflect the need for increased attention to the problem of speeding and things like that in town? Or is it just based on, how much we call and how much we need? What can we do about that? That's my question.
Yes,
Does the select board do? speak to
I
that?
think
Oh,
we'd like to let the chief speak.
Scott Nickler, police chief. So the agreement was originally when we came to Wendell was we were gonna be a call-based system, meaning we would respond to calls for service. So if there are needs for traffic control or we have concerns with speed, call us and we will come up and we'll try to get the best information we can. Time of day, location, day of the week, all of that. And we'll come up and we will specifically run radar in designated times. Because the original agreement was we were just gonna come up here and answer calls for service. So if we're looking for a little bit more of that, we can. I have a brand new young officer who's eager and wants to get out there and save the world one traffic stop at a time. He's ready to go, and if you do have concerns, because we've had places in town that have called us and said, hey, the traffic is really bad in this location, this time, and we go up there and we'll do some centralized patrols in that general area. So if you are having concerns, don't hesitate to give us a call, send an email, anything like that.
Thank you. Can I just follow up? Okay. Thank you so much for saying that. The problem is they're gone.
Right.
They're always being out of town. And there are always people zooming up and down that road. And it's not just Mountain View Road, it's Lots Village Road, it's Wendell Depot Road. I think people would agree that it's happening. It is happening on our roads, and we know that you are limited in your staffing, and we appreciate everything you're doing. But this is a real problem. And my concern is that someone might get killed.
One thing I just want to recognize too is in our budget, we have set aside a certain amount of money for additional, if we want to have patrols or speeding, stops set up that's in addition to the regular call for service that we have. We've heard very mixed responses from the community about whether we want that to happen or not. So we've erred on the side of not asking for that service set up at this point. But I would say if it's up to the townspeople, if people are going to come to us, more than one, maybe, asking for that service and asking us to spend that money, that's something that we can do.
And we can also, right now, we're in the process of the grant period. They just opened up a highway safety grant. We can use Wendell and put specific roads in that grant that the state will pay us and pay officers to come out here on the state's dime to run radar and traffic. So we'll do our part as well on that to try to limit the cost to the taxpayers here. And we'll make the taxpayers, the entire Commonwealth, pay for some of that.
Jillian's right. This is a sensitive issue in town, and we have to take an approach that is balanced and respects everyone's points of view and concerns on it. But safety is really the big issue.
Robert Della, Go Road. One of the things about speeding is that the roads are actually designed for speeding. So people will speed even when they're not even thinking about it. And the way you really deal with that, not so much with enforcement, which is only sort of a short-term thing. The more effective way is various means of traffic calming. We change the roads so that people either don't find it uncomfortable to speed. Things like potentially pavement and making the roads narrower, or putting in, changes in, horizontal or vertical direction, like, sort of like speed bumps and things like that, and, sharp, diversions from one side to the other, kind of things, so that intersections don't meet squarely, because it's sort of go around the corner, get through them, so people can zip through them and things like that. And that's usually what will actually work, is to slow traffic down, rather than, you can have radar stops, that will work so long as the police officer is there, and they can't really be there 24/7, every single day of the year. That would be too expensive. So traffic calming is what actually works. The roads and places have been designed to state higher speeds than you really should be proud of that, because that is highway engineers have been doing for the past century or so. Designing roads to be easy for people who are at front to arrive safely on construction at high speed, so they do drive fast. That's how the road is designed.
Smith, 45 Stone Road. Mark, I got clarification on this, was it $25,000 increase? What's that based on?
So, what is included in that is just not police department, related expenses, it's also all the miscellaneous stuff, the insurance, the benefits, the, stuff that normally you wouldn't see in a police department budget, it's not going into my police department budget, that's the overall number. So Leverett is getting a portion of that, there was, over the last 2 years, there's been a 10% fee from the town of Leverett to cover those expenses. Now we just have a more up-to-date number. So about 10,000 of that will go toward the town of Leverett to cover your insurances, on cruisers, on liability, to cover benefits for all the officers, to cover like OPEB, and there's some other, I don't know, if you have any other of the expenses that were covered in that.
I don't have them all listed, but like workman's comp was another one that I had as an example, so like that.
It's all the stuff that normally got absorbed into a regular expense budget here, it'd be a town, like in Leverett, those expenses go to a town budget, it doesn't go into the police department budget. So this number went up, that's included in it now, but that will get filtered out to the town of Leverett if and when it's passed. So the overall police department budget went up to 65,663, I believe. I believe those are the numbers I have.
So is close to 75,000, is that an accurate number from here on out?
No, it'll go up another approximately $14,000 to $15,000 next year. When we did the study, we took a 2-year period for call volume, and the call-in center, and the call-in center was the company that was hired on a grant to study this. So we brought all our numbers over the last 2.5 years roughly. It was a 2-year period. We took the numbers, and then what we've done since, gave them to the call-in center, and he went through and tried to figure out the best way to put an equation on how we're going to do this, because it is still fairly new throughout the Commonwealth. There's a few more towns that have jumped on here in Franklin County. But otherwise, before this agreement, there was only 1 other or 2 other communities that did it, 1 other police department. So it was still new. So they took the equation. He looked at some other options of square mileage and road miles, and that actually was a higher rate. So we took our call volume that we had last year. We answered 870 calls for service in this town. So we took the call volume, put an equation on it, took the numbers, the insurance numbers, all of those, and came up with an equation. I don't know the equation. I think the finance committee has a pretty good hold on it. I know Margie, the town administrator, Leverett, has a really good hold on it. I was asked to put a police department budget. I did, and then we put the stuff on the extras on top. It's, yeah.
We see a new voice.
Just, I know there's the person who's, Carolyn Manley, Lock Hill Road. The person, the officer that was acting as the dog officer is no longer with the department. Do you have someone who is taking over that role, or if last I knew that was kind of up in the air. So if that's not going to be handled by Wendell, will that amount in the budget be reduced?
So currently,
Reduce our assessment, I guess, is what.
currently the police department is handling all your animal complaints. We're doing the best we can with that. We have reached out to Franklin County House of Correction for some numbers. I actually just got those numbers in. The select board doesn't even know. I got the numbers in yesterday. And for a regional dog officer, it'd be almost $2,600 for a regional dog officer. So I will sit down and discuss with the select board about what we want to do. I would love for a local resident to do it. We would put it back out to the local resident. It just falls under the police department currently because it's easier for us to handle it because we're the ones that usually gets the initial call on the animal complaint. So if the select board wants to go that route, we'll advertise back out to the town, and if there's someone here that is interested in animals or dogs, specifically dogs, but it is other animal issues and complaints. And then you become close to the police department. We would continue with the budget we have for the animal control officer that way.
Thank you.
Doug Tanner, Buckfield, yes, I have a couple other little follow-up questions on that. One thing about the additional work for police officers, there was a fund that we didn't get done in the budget because is it rolling over? So there's $12,000 there that you don't see because we paid for it 2 or 3 years ago. That's sitting there for that need if it comes up. It would be interesting to know of those 800 plus calls, how many are well-being or adult calls versus other kinds of calls, and approximately, and how the impact of the new law that there should be no part-time police training anymore, and how that's impacting this, which I think it is. Correct.
Yeah, if most of you might not know, the state went through and created a post commission, which is the oversight of police throughout the Commonwealth. When they did that, the legislation was passed that said the part-time police academy and part-time police officers as we know it went away. So before there was a part-time police academy that anybody could go through. It was anywhere between 3 to 6 months long, depending on how many days a week. When I went through at 19 years old, it was 3 days a week. We did 2 4-hour days and an 8-hour day on Saturday, and it was about 120 hours of training. And then they said, here you go, here's your badge, and you're done, go out and serve your community. The Commonwealth went, yeah, that's not what we want. The Commonwealth said, we want, and the big thing here was we want every police officer from Boston to Sheffield, Mass to have the exact same police training. So they went, you know what, let's do away with the part-time police academy. So they did away with part-time police academy. Then they said any part-time police officer will have to go through what we call a bridge academy, which is an additional 200 hours of training to come up to the level, somewhat level, of where a full-time police officer is. So they went through those, a lot of the part-timers went through that training. About the numbers that we've heard about, approximately 50% of part-time police officers in the Commonwealth either elected to retire, resign, or not go through bridge. So you cut your part-time policing in half. So you're seeing these agreements with communities happen because towns cannot afford a full-time police department by themselves. So this is the best, or you can go with the state police, but the state police is, well, they're about 800 troopers short of their where they need to be. So, this is a wide range of policing here where we can have troopers, you can have locals. I think locals, you're gonna get to know me, you're gonna get to know my people. A trooper's just a number in a badge rolling into town, you know, doing their thing and then leaving. And the next time you get a different trooper. So I think this is the way we move forward. This Bridge Academy is hurting. It's hurting us. It's hurting our part-time staff. When we went into this agreement with Wendell, we had 10 total police officers. I'm down to 8, and probably looking at losing 1 or 2 more of my part-timers. Because now these part-timers have that Bridge Academy. They are now a certified full-time police officer, and they can work full-time somewhere else. So I'm losing. So what we're coming down to me and my full-time staff. I currently have 2 other full-timers, including myself, Sergeant Gould and Officer Christian Santiago, who is our new full-time officer. So we're doing the best we can with what we have. I did come forward originally for a 4th full-time officer this past year. I did pull it back because I got a lot of pushback. So it's still not, it's off the table this year, but if you may see it in the future for a 4th full-timer, just due to the fact that our staffing, our part-time staffing levels are decreasing. I can give you a few of the numbers. Just give me a second to find them here in my notes of call volumes and such. So these numbers were last year, 2022. We did 3 209A services. That's, you know, restraining orders. We had 10 911 calls, 2 911 hangups, 5 911 misdials. By policy, any 911 call we go to, whether it's a hang-up, whether it's a misdial, because you never know what's going on there. So, animal complaints, like I said, we have a lot. So if you want to be an animal control officer or dog officer, please reach out to me. But we had 34 animal complaints, 25 check the welfare, 11 disabled motor vehicles, 25 follow-up investigations, 3 larceny, 28 medical emergencies, 12 motor vehicle accidents, 12 motor vehicle complaints, 13 motor vehicle violations, 16 officer wanteds, safety hazards, we had 4 of them. We served 3 warrants. We had 2 suicide threats, 6 suspicious activity, 1 suspicious package, 2 suspicious people, 10 suspicious vehicles. So, you know, we had a wide range of stuff. We also, on part of our services that we provide is, you know, we do house checks for people if they're away. So those go into our building check category. So if someone calls me and says, hey, I'm going on a week vacation, can you just, on your patrol, can you watch my house? Can you just make sure nobody breaks in? So that's part of our service. We have some house checks, we have building checks. We come by, we check this building, we check the police station, we check. So my officers don't cut an individual call for each individual building. They'll do a group check. So they'll do 1 call for the area when they check. You know, we've had at the store down here, we've had people ask us to go and you know, be present when they're closing up because they're worried about all the money that's going through and they're taken out and someone possibly coming in. It's the same service we provide to the co-op and Leopard. So we have a wide range of things we do. A lot of it is we wait for the call from Wendell. You know, we did last year 39. I did 39 licenses to carry or pistol permits for the town of Wendell, and I did 38 for the town of Leopard. So I did 1 more pistol permit or fire license to carry for the town of Wendell than I did Leopard last year. So that's also something that a service that we provide, that we do all those for everyone here. So and then we understand you have to come to me. So what's my officer do? We will then deliver them to your house. So we're trying to pull our side here as well. So
So Nancy Stoll, there's a line item here for a salary for a dog officer for 80. And you said there wasn't an animal officer, dog officer right now. So I'm just trying to figure that out. Is that?
We can separate it.
So based on kind of how that was up in the air, we did put money aside in case there was a citizen that wanted to step up, and if we wanted to take that off their plate, we had funds set aside.
Chris Queen, West Street, could we thank Scott Nickler and his officers for what they do?
Scott, could you give us that email address you mentioned and the correct phone number?
Our email address it's mainly my email address. I got it on my phone. I was on vacation today. This week I'm on vacation, and in the last, I forwarded or responded to 13 emails on vacation. So my email address is policechief@leverett.ma.us. And the only time you won't get me is if I'm out of state or I'm a cruise guy. So if I'm on a cruise, you're not gonna get me. But our phone number, I'll give you the police department phone number. It's 413-548-4994.
And that's on our website.
It is on the website. We have a Facebook page. If any of you are on Facebook, look for Leverett Police Department on Facebook. We had a pole fire down here the other day. I put out some notifications of any traffic issues or concerns on our Facebook page as well. So if you're savvy and you're on Facebook, follow us and you will get updates in real time. Moderator, can I just give one quick update? The police department right next door, we received a grant to renovate that building. Thanks to Phil, we've done, I think it's pretty much renovated. 99.5% renovated. We had about $11,000 for furniture and equipment. I just spent $7,000 of it on Thursday. There will be desks in there. There will be computers in there. This will be an operational satellite station probably within the next 2 months. So that is at no cost to the town of Wendell. So we got about $125,000 total grant to renovate that building. So once it's up and running, you will have officers here. Come on in and take a look at it. You know, it's ultimately the town of Wendell's building. It's not ours. So come in and look at it. Let us know what you think. There's now an operational bathroom, shower, has running water. So it's a very good town facility. But it will be a police department that we still have to restrict some access to. So, but that building will be up and operational in the next few months.
But, like a victim and
Rich Rowan, I wanted to go. Was Lucille in the process of negotiating with your department?
No, I went about a year and a half ago and had to sit down at a town meeting that their town didn't know anything about. The select board called meeting, I was invited to, I went, and I got beat up pretty bad. But they, at the time, were not interested. That would be on the select boards of Leverett and Wendell to maybe reach out and see if maybe their level of wanting to be part of this has changed. I think we're seeing a lot more of these towns researching it. Berniston and Leiden now have a full agreement. Buckland and Shelburne are working on a full agreement. So it's out there. I know my people are up for it. Whatever we can do. I believe this is policing of the future in small towns. We can't, with rising costs, we see it, we can't continue to run individual police departments in these small towns. We just can't do it.
Jenny Gross, Stone Road. The budget for, I was gonna ask about if that was an actively used building, and where in the budget is the utilities for that? Is it in the police budget or is it in the town buildings budget, and are we accounting now for a new building being occupied basically pretty regularly with heat and electricity?
Yeah, that would be in, so we have a town buildings, utilities budget and everything, and that would be in there.
In there.
We try to put a big enough buffer in there for the fluctuating fuel costs.
And to plan for being staff.
Yeah, I don't believe it'll be used, any more than it was previous. It's a satellite station, we're not gonna have it manned 24 hours a day, or if an officer, what we're looking for is if we have an arrest or something in Wendell, instead of bringing them all the way back to Leverett to then turn around and go to Orange District Court, we're trying to save on fuel costs and things like that as well. We'll come here, we'll book, and then transport to Orange that way. So it's just, it gives us the in-between, and then I'm hoping that I can get a few more of my officers certified to do licenses to carry and pistol permits, so I'm the only one currently certified, so I have to do them all. But if I can get my sergeant or the other full-time officer certified to do them, we could do those here. We could have a specific office hour once a week that pistol permits can be done right here in Wendell, so you don't have to drive all the way to Leverett.
All right. Any more questions or comments, information about police department or other protection?
Not the police department, we have a question about Rick on the ambulance services. Why is the town paying for people with ambulance services and their private insurance? Medicare. Is there a reason why the town's picking up the cost of ambulance services?
I don't know how exactly that is split, but that is,
But the town's paying for it, there is an insurance company involved, we get reimbursed.
I think Ace
So we have
can
an
answer your
answer.
question.
Yeah, it's a fire department. I can answer that, because we're just basically paying for them to be available on here to resources, because it's such an expensive service. And then they bill, the person's insurance above and beyond that also, is my understanding. So we had one of the lowest assessments, I think, of a lot of times around for ambulance service. I know, and other times have consolidated. Their expenses are pretty high, like South County and that Whitney and where those target communities. So it's not a good year, but it's still pretty low. I think that now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So 46,000 is to keep them.
But they're only, so they don't, they're having a lot of calls, 300 days and
So it's not by call.
Right, yeah, because you have to have the ambulance and stuff, so they have two, and sometimes we had alcohol today, whatever, because they were, both their ambulances were out, so they're pretty busy, they got a lot of miles and all that, that's pretty good, but I mean, maybe $500,000 versus now. That's probably. Thank you.
And Doug Tanner, I can offer a little follow-up on that, because I was at a meeting about 3 years ago when the whole financial circumstance changed around the ambulance service. And one of the major things that drove that was that the Orange Ambulance Service had been in an agreement with an Admiral Hospital and some of the others, that they would get, what are called, well, there's emergency calls, and there's also these other calls, when you move someone from one nursing home to another. And they basically screwed Orange big time ambulance service and said, no, you're just gonna get the emergency calls. We're getting all the, what do you call them? All of those to the FO ambulance and some others. So that made a huge difference in their budget. I mean, astronomical difference in their budget, because emergency calls cost a lot of money. And yet these other ones don't, which were paid the same. So, that's part of the story. That when the big jump happened a few years ago, that is one of the major reasons.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion about protection? All right, we're ready to vote for $256,903 for protection. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, that amount for protection carries unanimously. library, $65,182.
Phyllis Lawrence. I'm a library co-chair, and we want to increase one of the lines, the library payroll line, which is $50,382. We want to increase it to $52,595.10. This is because it didn't reflect that 50,000 number did not reflect the COLA that everybody's getting across the town. So we want to pay our staff with the COLA. So I want to make an amendment. So the amendment would go, I move to amend the library payroll line item to $52,595.10 from the listed $50,382 in order to include the COLA recommended by the finance committee.
Second. Do we have a motion and second from the finance committee?
We recommend this.
So do you want this?
Yeah, you have it written down, I hope.
So my addition, it changes the bottom line to $67,395.10. Do you agree? Yes.
We just rounded up.
Okay, the finance committee would like you to round that up actually to $956 for simplicity.
Okay.
So is it corrected on her amendment?
She did put the numbers on the movie.
Oh, yes, she did, yes.
I'm confused.
All right, we have a motion to amend the library payroll line item. Any discussion, comments, questions? All right, we'll vote on that amendment, amending the payroll line item to $52,956. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that amended amount carries unanimously. And so the library total is 67,396,000. With that.
The amount of the amendment, either something's reversed, because I understood Phyllis to say it was 52,596, but Katie, you just said.
Oh, okay.
52,956.
590.
Is it 596?
596.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so actually, could I have a motion for that amended total? 67,396.
Yes.
And is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, any discussion of the amended total? All right, we'll vote, all those in favor of an amended total for the library at $67,396, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that amended total carries unanimously. Okay, health and sanitation, $24,332.
I didn't realize we had time to say anything about the library. I just want to take a moment, after being 10 Blueberry Lane, to say a big shout out. The library is just, it's reborn. It's, you guys do a great job. I love it.
All right, health and sanitation, $24,332. Any questions or comments about health and sanitation? All right, we'll vote on it. All those in favor of a subtotal of $24,332 for health and sanitation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that subtotal carries unanimously. Okay, town properties, to building expenses, et cetera, for the town, $75,646. Questions, comments? Then we'll vote on town properties, 75. Somebody. No, we have the main motion. Okay, yeah, this is divided, so. I'm forgetting. Yeah. All those in favor of $75,646 for the town properties? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that total carries unanimously. Insurance, interest and assessments, $235,931. Questions, comments? All right, we'll vote on insurance, interest and assessments at $235,931. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that total carries unanimously. Highway and DPW at $569,735. Anybody have a comment, question? All right, looks like we can vote. Oh,
We have a question.
good.
Doug Smith, 45 Stone. Actually spoke to Doug Tanner, because I think he was on the same panel at the time. We ever get the FEMA reimbursement from the road we built? On Old Farley? Yeah. You haven't received that yet? Any idea what that number is? Roughly? I missed the question. We're supposed to get FEMA reimbursement on the road we built on Old Farley that we got GS line to do instead of our highway.
We did get money back from the state for road damage.
Storm damage.
Storm damage. State.
So,
200, I think it was 204,000.
okay, so we paid for it.
Yeah, I need to be enough.
Okay, anything further about highway, DPW? Okay, all those in favor of $569,735 for highway and DPW, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Veterans benefits and services, $21,171.
Yeah, just quickly, it's almost, just want to say, what a great job this highway department does. Year round. Thanks, guys. You did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, veterans benefits and services, $21,171. Okay, no questions, comments. We'll vote on that, $21,171 for veterans benefits and services. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Did I link to that again? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Okay, so, and that is the end of Article 4. Thank you. We'll go on to Article 5. But we don't have to, we don't know, because yeah. Self, what is it, self-effectuating, what's that called?
All right, so I should go ahead?
Yes.
I move that the town votes to authorize revolving fund annual expenditure amounts for fiscal year 2023 as follows. The wiring inspector, $10,000, plumbing gas inspector, $10,000, town hall kitchen, $10,000, recreation commission, $5,000, recycling, $15,000, and veterans memorial, $15,000.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, finance committee. All right, discussion, comments, questions about the revolving fund expenditure limits. All right, we will vote on authorizing these revolving fund expenditure amounts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, carries unanimously. Article 6.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $2,500 to add to the insurance reserve fund.
Second.
We have a motion and a second at the finance committee.
The finance committee recommends this.
The questions or anything to say about the insurance reserve fund? All right, all those in favor of raising and appropriate $2,500 to the insurance reserve fund, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 7.
I move that the town votes to transfer the sum of $25,000 from stabilization for the reserve fund.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and the finance committee. All right, any questions or comments about transferring money from the stabilization?
I'm pretty sure that was for the.
Finance.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh.
Yes.
You want people what it's for?
Do you want to tell people?
I can tell This is the reserve fund that the FinCom has, that they're able to use to subsidize departments or other overruns that happen without having to go to the county. So it's up to them and the select board to determine when to use it.
Okay. Are people ready to fund this reserve fund? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, carries unanimously. Article 8.
I move that the town votes to transfer the sum of $6,000 from stabilization for the independent audit expenses.
Second.
So we have motion and second, the finance committee.
We recommend.
Discussion, comments, questions? All right, all those in favor of transferring $6,000 from stabilization for independent audit expenses, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 9.
I move that the town votes to appropriate the sum of $477,610 for the MLP Enterprise Fund beginning July 1st, 2023, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2, amount to be funded from the sources outlined in Article 9 of this warrant.
Second.
We have a motion and second, and the finance committee.
Recommends.
Okay. Does someone want to speak to this?
I can, this is Laurie DiDonato. I'm also on the MLP board, and Ray, who is the MLP manager, couldn't be here tonight. This is just the MLP budget we have to do every year that sort of outlines what our estimated revenues are going to be and what our estimated expenses are going to be, and sort of just is telling you, we're going to collect this money and use it for these expenses. But it doesn't, town doesn't have to pay anything.
Does anyone have any questions or All right, we'll vote on appropriating the sum of $477,610 for the MLP Enterprise Fund. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That carries unanimously. Article 10.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $132,084.99, which includes $82,639.20 principal and $49,445.79 interest to pay the FY24 debt service on the broadband project.
Second.
All right, questions?
How long is this going to go? How many years?
Well, I can just say, is it 10 years? But maybe the more important thing is that, just to be clear, the next or future article is going to, the MLP is going to pay the town back for this. So the town isn't going to end up paying this because we're getting paid back by the MLP.
All right, any further? All right, so we're voting to raise and appropriate $132,084.99 for the debt service on the broadband project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. So Article 11.
I move that the town votes to appropriate $132,084.99 from the MLP Enterprise Fund retained earnings to reimburse the general fund for payment of the FY24 debt service on the broadband project. Includes $82,639.20 principal and $49,445.79 interest.
Second.
So the motion and second, the finance committee recommended. Yeah. So questions?
What is a redundancy project?
What is?
We're not on that article yet. Is that right?
Okay, then I'm reading ahead because there's so many MLPs here and broadband articles. And I'm not clear in this quick reading. What are the differences? The first one was the budget. And I thought, wow, $500,000. That's a big budget. And then could someone explain the difference between these? I know one we're paying interest on money borrowed. Could you explain that, please?
I think the difference between Article 10 and Article 11 is that one of them is going to put money into the town funds from MLP, and then those funds will be used by the town to pay the principal and the interest. Go ahead, Carolyn.
Just the MLP can, Carolyn Manning, the MLP cannot pay the debt service directly because the town of Wendell incurred the debt. So the town, it's a procedural thing. The town has to show that they are appropriating funds to pay the debt service, but then the MLP is reimbursing the town. So it's kind of a procedural thing.
I have a question about it. I just don't see that in the MLB budget, that $132,000.
We're taking it as retained earnings. So it's not in this upcoming budget.
Explain what retained earnings is.
So the free cash, so it's basically what was left over from last year's budget.
Oh, from the MLP's budget.
Yes, from the MLP's budget.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, we will vote on appropriating $132,084.99 from the MLP Enterprise Fund to reimburse the general fund for the debt service on the broadband project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 12.
I move that the town votes to appropriate $50,000 from the MLP Enterprise Fund retained earnings to pay the estimated cost of the Wendell Municipal Light Plant's share of the Eastern Tier Network Redundancy Project in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2.
Second.
So motion and a second, and Finance Committee, questions? Read that.
So this is basically trying to make, Robert might be better at answering this, but do you want to answer it, Robert? All right.
The idea of the redundancy project is to have more than one source of internet coming into town in case one of the other sources fails for some reason. Right now, we're getting internet service through the the Mass Broadband 122 network, which comes basically through Orange, from Greenfield, from Springfield. We have a redundant network going to New Salem, but it also goes back to that one network. So if something happens, like the tree falls down on Route 2 someplace, we're out in minute. Because that's where the fiber is. Redundancy project will have us hook up into Shutesbury, which has a hookup with a company called Crown Castle. So that if the Mass Broadband network is down for some reason, we'll still have internet. Or if Crown Castle goes down, we'll still have network than what we have right now. So we'll have two different ways to get in. It's sort of like having more than one road between Greenfield and Wendell. We have one road and it goes out, we never get Greenfield, but we actually have multiple roads. We can go either by way of Irving, we can go by way of Amherst, or we can go by way of Turner's Falls. This is the same basic idea, having multiple routes we can get to where we need to get to.
Just a one-time cost?
Yes, it basically buying some equipment to hook all the networks together, like network station, stuff like that. Like electronic stuff that uses the lights. Fibers.
Am I correct in assuming this is coming out of the funds that they raised from subscribers and not from that fund?
Yes.
The motion says retained earnings.
Retained earnings is basically, it's the same, another way to think that is profit. But town municipal light plants can't have profit, the city has retained earnings. It's just, it's the same thing as the profit. It's okay, just terminology.
All right. Any more questions? All right, all those in favor of appropriating $50,000 from the MLP Enterprise Fund for the Eastern Tier Network Redundancy Project, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, carries unanimously. Article 13.
I move that the town votes to transfer $30,781 from the MLP Enterprise Fund to the Broadband Enterprise Capital Stabilization Fund in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F1/2.
I second.
Okay, well, motion and second, and the Finance Committee recommends it. All right. Questions, comments about transferring money from the Enterprise Fund to the Broadband Enterprise Capital Stabilization Fund? All right, we'll vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 14.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $164.34 to pay a bill of prior year for the planning board.
Second?
We have a motion and second, the finance committee. Okay, all those in favor, any discussion, comments? Okay, all those in favor of paying a bill of prior years for the planning board, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say nay. That carries unanimously. Okay, Article 15.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to pay for fire department turnout gear.
Second?
All, any discussion, comment? All right, we'll vote on raising and appropriate $5,000 for fire department turnout gear. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. There are 4 articles, starting with Article 16, that we are going to do as a consent agenda, which includes Articles 16, 17, 18, and 20, which basically we will, there's be a motion and we'll just vote on them all together without discussion or comment. But if someone wants to have discussion or comment on any one of these 4 articles, they should say so. These are all things that typically pass unanimously. They're all paying debt that we owe. So if anybody wants to hold and discuss Article 16, say something. Article 17, Article 18, Article 20. Okay, so we will have one motion and consider all 4 of these articles together.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,789, which includes $32,851 in principal and $32,938 in interest, to pay the fiscal year 2024 debt service on the town building construction loan, to raise and appropriate the sum of $24,061 to pay the FY24 debt service on the backhoe, to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,504 to pay the FY24 debt service on the front end loader, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,266 to pay the FY24 debt service on the Mahar construction loan.
Second?
So we have motion second in the finance committee.
Recommends this.
Okay, since none of these were held out, we'll just vote. So all those in favor of paying the debt service for the town building construction loan, the backhoe, the front end loader, and the Mahar construction loan, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Okay, those passed unanimously. Okay, so we're down to Article 19. Yeah,
I have a quick question. Is there any way that we would be able to know how long the debt service of any of these are? So we're paying for the next 5 years, 10 years, as a town hall construction loan? How many years we have left on that?
It was. I don't.
2012.
I just don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. It's at least 25 more years on the town buildings. Or close to that. It might be less than that. I'd be happy to get back to you on that. Some of the equipment.
This would be helpful, these articles for me.
Right.
Like how many, when I make my car, how many I have left.
Right.
For the backhoe or the.
Well, one of the equipment loans, this is the last year on, I think that's the loader, the backhoe has 1 more year.
Okay.
And Mahar construction, that seems to vary, so, because they do things and.
All right, move on to Article 19.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $6,000 to pay for tree maintenance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and finance committee.
The finance committee recommends this.
Okay, good. Questions or?
Who is responsible for this maintenance?
The tree one is, I think, ultimately responsible.
Alone?
Cliff, yeah.
No, alone?
Well, he coordinates it, at least. He hires people out. He makes the decisions on what trees need to come down and then hires people to do it. Is that what you're?
Project manager, how does, I assume the $6,000 has to do with a quote I got from the tree service to remove the trees that are falling down around the library. That was something up recently, I'm not sure if that's the actual original $6,000 for the I took that on as a project specific, other than the tree wardens, we agreed, myself and the tree warden, I would do that, but that may be what that $6,000 for.
I think this is actually a petition, so.
Yeah, so we have a fund for the tree warden to make any needed kind of tree repairs, and then we make sure that we're topping that off. So that was a factor. We do have a project coming up at the library to remove a tree that's causing some issues. So we're just making sure that we top off those funds again, so that he has the need of an emergency trees coming down.
All right, any more questions? All right, you'll vote on the sum of $6,000 for tree maintenance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, carries unanimously. Article 21.
I move that the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,000 to repave the Wendell Recycling and Transfer Station. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, and the finance committee.
Finance committee recommends this. This is a fund that we're putting $5,000 a year away to build up, so that we have that ready to use when needed.
Dr. Smith, 45 Stone Road, is this having to do the recapping of that, or the status of that? That's it. I'm just hearing through the grapevine, this mission come up, but I'm sure what kind of question. This is regarding paving for rats.
Oh, the rats of the recapping?
No.
The rats is separate, that's the part of the landfill is undergoing a project where we are obliged, for order of the state, to cap the actual landfill, which is the back section where the rats is. And that's a 2 or 3 year long project. We've got a fund that was given by the state, about $75,000. So we're working on that. We have to get wells in the ground, test the water, and we have to regrade the outsides, and we have to plant them so they can be mowed and maintained, as opposed to just all sitting there for 25 years and uncared for. So, thank you.
All right, seeing no further hands, we'll vote on $5,000 for repaving the rats. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. And then Article 22.
I move that the town votes to transfer from stabilization the sum of $200,000 to reduce the tax rate. Second.
There's a motion and second in the finance committee.
The finance committee recommends this. This is again kind of what we talked about at the beginning. We're just trying to make sure that there's not any large jumps in the tax rate or townspeople, but just know that this is money that we're taking from stabilization that we're sort of eating away at our savings a bit. So we're trying to maintain that healthy balance of tax rate and savings.
What will the balance be after this appropriation?
Yeah, balance is. So it'd be, $532,432.
to do that?
Yeah, that'll be that in hours.
Okay, not seeing any hands. We'll vote on transferring from stabilization $200,000 to reduce the tax rate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 23.
I move that the town votes pursuant to the provisions of General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, to create a new special purpose stabilization fund to be known as the Opioid Settlement Stabilization Fund, which may be expended for all of the purposes allowed by law, including those outlined in applicable opioid litigation settlement documents referenced in this warrant in Article 23, and consistent with any state guidelines or regulations further clarifying allowable uses of opioid litigation settlement funds. And further, to adopt the last paragraph of said Section 5B and dedicate to such fund without further appropriation 100% of the opioid litigation settlement funds received by the town. And further, to transfer from available funds a sum of money equal to that received or to be received by the town from opioid litigation settlements resulting from the town's participation in the national opioid multi-district litigation into said opioid settlement stabilization fund.
Second.
A motion and a second, and the finance committee. Questions or comments? All right, we're ready to vote.
Karen, Jonathan Road. Could somebody put this into English? And make it just clear what it's all about?
You want me to try? Oh, Glenn can. Glenn's been waiting.
Glenn Johnson was, I'm your town coordinator. Basically, a bunch of people put a lot of people at risk, got them addicted and killed them through the over prescription of pharmaceuticals. So they got addicted to opioids, and then there was legal action taken against them. And the way that was resolved was settled. No one went to jail, but they gave, basically, they have to pay millions of dollars to try to redress the issue. And so they basically have to do, we have to do a lot of kind of financial hijinks in order to accept the money and spend the money on the allowable use, because it's kind of a novel thing for a town to be receiving this kind of settlement money. The legislatures are working on trying to streamline this, so we don't have to have such a long motion on your town warrant in the future. But for now, basically the money has to come into one place and go somewhere else and then be spent in an allowable way. And that's all it's basically saying. We're creating a fund and we're gonna follow the law about how the money kind of has to move along. So that's about as clear as I can be about what this motion is saying. It's a settlement because people were, companies were sued for their, right, so. Oh, it will be, it has to be used basically to address the opioid epidemic in some way. And I think the Board of Health will make a recommendation eventually. And it's very small amounts of money, just so folks know. The Board of Health will advise the select board, and the select board will, in all likelihood, follow the recommendation about where the money should go.
That would be very lame. It sounds like we have to match the funds though, that's preserved.
Yeah.
I read here, it says, and further to transfer from available funds to sum of money equal to the amount we get from the settlement. I don't get that part. Why would we have to do that? Oh, Carolyn.
Carolyn Manley, Blackville Road Treasurer. It just means that when the money, it's a procedural statement. So when the funds are deposited into our general fund, we don't have to take another vote, like when we vote money into the stabilization fund, This allows for that money to be directly transferred from the general fund into the specific stabilization fund.
Chris, just your question, okay.
Glenn, wasn't this year like $81?
Yeah, something like that.
It's a very minimal amount of money.
Yeah.
So, we're ready to vote on putting opioid settlement money into an opioid settlement stabilization fund. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries by a majority. Okay, Article 24.
Carolyn.
Sure. Oh,
I'm sorry, can I just say one thing before we move on? Thanks for the internet in Wendell. I was able to clarify that we have 15 years left on a town building.
Better than 25.
Yes, I know, that's why I thought it was worth.
thank you, Deb. So on to Article 24.
I move that the town adopt the resolution as presented in Article 24 of this warrant.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second in Finance Committee.
Yeah.
No. And this is regarding, you should have a warrant to be able to read it. It's regarding establishing a committee to, what is this? Okay, citizens of the town of Wendell offer to share the town common with related original native tribes. The details will be proposed by a working committee of 3 to 5 Wendell citizens appointed by the select board. This committee will organize meetings with native representatives, those authorized to speak for tribal entities, who then may become partners in the committee. Initiating this exchange can start with Nipmuc and Abenaki representatives, as those tribes are indigenous to this area. The act of tribal sharing will not include the financial burden of maintenance, residence, or unilateral reconstruction, but rather is an offering to recognize partnership as guardian conservationist in preserving the earth and the inequity of land acquisition in the past.
Could we get a little history behind where this came from and, or, you know, who's spearheading? I'm sorry, Molly, can we get some history behind who's spearheading it, or?
I think it's Nina.
Nina, and I'd like to hear more about it.
Nina Keller. Last year, I went to the native gathering that was a weekend in Turner's Falls along the river. And there were many speakers. And after listening to so many speakers, someone said, well, what can we do? And they said, just do something. You have to decide, just do something. Stop thinking about it. So I thought, well, this is sort of a show of support and respect for Native values of being not owners, but caretakers of the earth. So I thought, well, what do we own in common as a town? And anyone can apply to the select board, as far as I know, to use the town common. But this makes it more public, more vocal, and very clear that we don't think this is ours, but this belongs to the Native people too, verbally. And so I called David Brule, who is a renowned local Native spokesperson, and I sent him my wording, and he made a few suggestions, and thus we can vote as a show of support and respect.
Thank you.
Any other comments or?
Well, the wording doesn't clarify for me what we're actually offering. And I understand the debt that we owe to the people that we displaced. But I also feel that we assume the debt of conservation ourselves now. And are we offering this up for powwows and are we going past our select board's ability to screen how the very center of our town is used? And so this seems symbolic, but then if we were to have a rainbow gathering, some situation on our common, then we would have to have the burden of maintenance. And when it says residents, can people therefore put a homeless village on our land because they were displaced by us in the past? So this symbolic language bothers my concrete thinking.
Well, it does say will not include residents.
Why does it say residents? Does this imply that someone can live on our common?
Will not
Well,
include.
no, it's they can't.
Yeah, for travel sharing will not include the thing.
Cannot include
Maintenance, residential.
Or you don't have a meeting,
that, or any construction there or change.
And because a committee would be formed and have eventual collaboration with any local native tribes, that can all be worked out, but David did say he thought it was a generous idea that probably wouldn't have too much impact because the local tribes have their places already. But if they wanted to have a powwow or a drum circle, they would feel more welcome.
Chris Queen West Street, maybe in the spirit of Kathy's concern, would the committee then, in agreeing to have a certain function on the common, need final approval from the select board, or would they have autonomous authority over the common?
Does this, it's, Nina, does this motion, does it say, what is this committee, what is its authority?
Well, I don't really know. And we can add an addition amendment under purview of the select board. But I think if anyone wanted to be part of the committee, those are the issues that would be worked out. And that's what a committee does. So adding under the purview of the select board would be fine with me. And if that settles any qualms, then I make an amendment to add those two words under the purview of the select board.
Could you write that down?
I think the question is whether the select board has the final say in approving activities on the common pursuant to the committee's recommendation.
Actually, do you know what, I just saw this too.
So I added that, under the purview of the select board, which has final say.
Because I'm not sure if this is totally relevant, but under Mass General laws, in order to transfer municipal land to another board or to another municipal purpose, it requires a 2/3 vote of town meeting. So it might actually require town meeting as well. It seems to me. I mean, I'm not sure whether I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if that applies, but it does seem to be saying that town meeting has a say in the use of municipal lands as well.
Isn't that what we're doing here?
Well, I mean, the final, what I'm saying is perhaps the final proposal of the committee would come before town meeting and the
Well,
select
we're
board.
not transferring land, we're just saying that we're sharing it. And this can be so simple. I mean, people can look for a million problems before they even happen. That's why there's a committee. And I just don't think it's so complicated as all that. Under the purview of the select board that has the final say.
Okay, then you wrote that down. Okay, so there's an amendment. Is there a second for that amendment?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of that amendment, or is there discussion of that amendment? Okay, all those, yes.
I have concerns about this, and I am tormented to even admit it. As a descendant of an Indian killing family of settlers, and not wanting to be unwoke and being a liberal person, but I'm really struggling with this because I think it's giving away something symbolically that isn't real and it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like a symbolic gesture, and I hate symbolic gestures when they're meaningless, and I know it means something, that I know we're trying to do something good, but it's so many words here that are confusing to me, and I'm not smart enough to freaking figure it out, and I don't like it. When people have, I think it goes without saying that people can come to our select board and ask to use our common, and we're very generous about that. And I think especially if Native Americans wanted to use our town common, we would feel honored to let them come here and do that. And it takes away our ability to do something on our own when we make this symbolic artificial gesture with these words that we're thinking out of our brain on the spot, that somebody else said this and this, I went to here and I get the sentiment, it's really meaningful, but this isn't ready for us to vote.
A question about that, the structure of use of the town hall. Is it, would I be correct in saying that, like other towns, every person who wanted to do something in town, but they do have to have the sponsorship or the inclusion of someone who's a resident? That, it is like the red down hall, you have to have someone who's a resident. Is that the true of the common?
Not the town common, I don't believe. I mean, we ask that people let us know and come to us and talk to us about it in case there's an impact on, but the town common is for the people.
So, so there's a difference between renting town hall and using
Right.
town common. Rent town hall, someone who's a resident has to be involved or okay it or whatever, but that's not the case with town common. Okay. That helps to understand. Then it doesn't-
If you think about it in the way that, you know, people go out and play kickball, or at least used to play kickball or something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
We have a history of chasing Native Americans off our common. And something needs to be done where you're trying to mitigate that. But I'm not sure these words are ready to make the statement that's in your heart. And I hate to vote this down, but I will vote this down because I think that this is so important that we really need to not casually make a statement about our responsibility and our sharing of our common, but to have some volunteer committee people that might join this, and I can think of people in town would be interested, who would take this sentiment of wanting to say, this land was yours, this common land we share, we will not chase you away as we have in the past. But there's things in here that are very disturbing, the residence part, and it implies that they can use it without any burden of responsibility, really, just some sort of ethereal dream of that we're preserving the earth together. But we, the townspeople of Wendell, are paying to preserve the earth of our common, and we have fragile trees, and if strangers come who don't know about, it puts the burden of history on the select board to not look politically incorrect to the press in the future by coming up with a plan that isn't well fleshed out. And we could end up with a bigger problem in the future with disputes and bad feelings if we don't resolve some of the wording in this that's not clear. I'm gonna not say anything more, I said it's not my choice.
I think I understand Nina's efforts here, but I also hear Kathy's efforts. And, we've let Native Americans down like so many times, Kathy said. And then I think we're gonna maybe amend this, that really the select board will have the final say anyways. So we're gonna have the white select board really tell you what to do in the end. Now, that doesn't really seem like a good idea to me. We've got to think about this whole topic in a comprehensive way and how we want to engage with the indigenous tribes in this area. And there are people that are skilled in developing those conversations, like David Brule and the Noble Beaker Project. Jen Albertine is the person at Mount Graceland Conservation Trust that is like a liaison with the tribes. There's others working in this arena. And we're just not in a position to move forward. We could develop a town committee that wants to engage with the tribes and try to maybe seek some volunteers and some expertise. But we also have to be careful what Kathy is saying. We go begging for committee members in this town on some of the most important matters. So we're already spread pretty thin. And how much time are we going to really, truly dedicate to engaging with the Native Americans for the long haul? So I'm supporting, unless I hear otherwise, we postpone this for the time being.
Chris Wings, I'm comfortable with this, but I would be very comfortable with there being a committee to look further into this and flesh this proposal out to be brought back to town meeting, so that we had something more concrete. But it feels, it feels too unclear for us to make that kind of a decision for the town. So I guess I wouldn't be in favor of amending this article or in favor of the original article. But it would be that, I guess I would be in favor of amending it to say that there would be a committee, the selectmen would appoint a committee to further research it.
Okay, we have one amendment. Perhaps after we voted on this amendment, you could offer another one.
Yeah, I would speak against the amendment. I actually like the paragraph the way it is now, Doug Tanner. And the reason I do is because I think what it does is it puts some guardrails on what the duties, what they're asking the committee to do, which is you're not talking about anybody living there, not talking about making any changes to the code. You're not talking about doing anything that would cost maintenance money for that group to use it. So there's a pretty good guardrails for my purpose. I kind of get this thing, with the ad that it's all the cycle has to approve it all, which they would anyway, it just makes it kind of dictatorial. But what this does really is it creates a working committee which will propose details. They will either propose details to the select board or to the town meeting or both. That's what this does. It doesn't really do anything else. So I like it. I like it just the way it is without the amendment.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
And in John Quist Road, somehow it seems to me that people have forgotten that this is just a resolution. We just resolve to do what Doug said, to form a committee. And the rest of it is a suggestion about what that committee might do. So it's not, it's a resolution. We're resolving to create this committee, but it's up to the select board. I wonder if the select board could say something.
I haven't thought about it that much, I'm afraid. Do you have anything?
The only thing I would say is, speaking to what Dan Leahy said, was we are struggling right now to populate committees and have the people that we need to serve on committees so that they can function. Doesn't mean that this shouldn't happen, but if people are really interested in this, they have to step up and be involved in it. That's it.
Nancy Spittle, the first sentence says citizens of the town of Wendell offer to share the town common with related original native tribes. It makes that statement. It's not just about making a committee. I like the idea of having a group of people work toward this. I also feel like it's not as clear as it could be about what the intention might be here. And that's work that the committee could do, perhaps, if there is one. I'd rather see the idea the town meeting here today approve of establishing a committee to approach some of these issues than to try to make something that I'm not sure Native folk would even find valuable. I'm not sure that what is offered here is something that it might, especially when it says that the amendment that was proposed about the select board having a plan saying stuff. There's all this saying we want to share, but we're not going to take responsibility for this and that. It just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't feel right.
All right, we'll vote on the amendment, which is to add the word under the purview of the select board, which has final say. Okay, all those in favor of that amendment say aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the amendment is voted down unanimously. So we go back to the original motion. Is there, now it sounded like there were two amendments. I have Chris and Nancy, did you have an amendment as well? Or it wasn't quite clear to me. But
This is not about an amendment, but it's about the original wording in this statement, which Bruce Smith was after. And it's just pretty unclear, this question about financial burden suggests that the tribe doesn't have a financial burden, not necessarily that we don't have a financial burden. I think this is complex and important. I just want to say that, and I think it's premature to make I'd like to see if we could postpone this process so that we're not denying this idea. Somehow, I don't know if there's a way to do that, but it suggests to me that it would be, it could be distorted if we vote this down. And I'd like to suggest we postpone the process to a later time and come up with some good language that isn't vague. This is confusing, and I'm sure the intention was good, but it's just, I've seen things with good intentions go south before, and you know what they say about that.
I'd like to make a suggestion, a parliamentary suggestion. One thing that can be done, if someone wanted to make that motion, it could be, this could be referred to the select board, the open space committee, it could be referred to the planning board, whoever, could be referred to some town entity to research and develop. And I'm just offering that is one option that could happen.
Comment in response to
Yeah.
this maintenance business. There's weekly, bi-monthly maintenance. That's why I put that in. We wouldn't be sending a bill to any tribe for mowing or fertilizing or planting trees. But I did not put in costs of repair after a gathering. That's what that committee would come up with. And I thought of this also because Montague has their reconciliation. They're directly involved with the statue and the massacre and comments being said. And I thought this is just such a simple thing, not symbolic, real, saying something and meaning it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there also the option of passing it over? Passing over, is that also an option?
Table
Well, sort of.
Do I have to withdraw?
Table.
Table it, would not pick it up from the table before.
Pass over, I believe you do. You cannot keep, my understanding is you can't go to another future town meeting what they have to do. I would be reluctant to hand it to the committee, they are going to do. Might be amenable to having it over. Which isn't fair.
Are you making that motion?
I will make a motion to pass over this Article 24.
I would second.
Okay, we have a motion to pass over Article 24 and a second. Is there discussion on passing over this motion, this article?
I can talk again, this is the main motion. I really liked your idea that you proposed of referring it to a committee, and because this is open space, I was wondering if it could be referred, if it could be referred to the open space committee, and then that would be, you know, really to go somewhere. And with this actually beautiful idea, and try to flesh it out to make it be something that deals with how we use open space. And it would take away the appearance of the the authoritarianness of the select, board. We put them in the position of being authoritarian, which I'm nervous about because of our history. It's my group, so, it might be a way to keep this alive if we referred it to the open space, but I don't want to do that. Or if it's-
Well, yeah, we have the motion that, we have a motion to pass over, depending on how that goes, you could make a
Well,
motion.
so I would look against passing over so that we can consider if we can keep this alive by referring it to a committee.
Okay, is there any further, Jonathan?
I agree with that, it's saying it makes sense. It's not, the sound of passing over, it sounds like kicking it down the road. I don't know if they would actually do that, but this is a little more concrete. If the town meeting is looking to refer to the open space committee for more thought and consideration, then I would think it maybe get somewhere. Jonathan Bonner, 6A, October 3rd.
Firstly, I'm just reluctant to put this onto a committee that's already existing and already has a guest role. So,
Well,
you know, if like a new committee of people who are interested in it, that would make sense, but to put it on an existing committee who's already overworked, and I know all the committees are overworked, I would not be in favor of that.
Question. All question, motion.
Okay, Jude, there's a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor of calling the question on passing over, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, we will vote on passing over the motion under Article 24. All those in favor of passing over the motion under Article 24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
I would call that as the ayes, having it that it is passed over. Do you know
What does that mean? That we're just not voting on it?
We're just moving on. We're not dealing with it right now. Yeah.
It sounds like a common theme. Nothing but that.
We'll move on to Article 25.
I move that the town vote to petition the state legislature to grant non-citizen permanent residents, resident aliens in the town of Wendell, the ability to vote in all Wendell town meetings, elections, and actions, and to serve on elected and appointed Wendell municipal boards and committees.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second, and Finance Committee.
No.
All right, is there any discussion or?
Jared Burla, Blueberry Lane, what is the definition of a permanent resident?
A resident who's not a US citizen, I believe.
I guess
You
the
mean-
word permanent, it sounds like permanent resident.
Correct.
And so what constitutes a permanent resident?
Is there someone here who could speak to this?
Glenn.
Oh, Glenn.
Jan Keller brought this to, was voted on by the select board. This has been passed in Leverett. And essentially, it's not an action where after, if it was voted for, that folks would immediately be able to vote and serve on the committees. It's asking the legislature to take this action. And I don't know the legal definition myself of a permanent resident, but I assume there is one out there. And I think it Has been done.
So
Okay.
it's a green card holder, non-citizens who are lawfully authorized to live permanently within the United States.
So this did just pass in Leverett very recently, the exact same language.
Could someone address the benefit of this, why this would be beneficial to the town?
Because there are several non-citizen permit, go ahead.
As the person who runs the elections, people who live in town and pay taxes can't necessarily vote in our elections if they are not a legal citizen of the a registered voter, and I cannot grant voting status to a person who is not a citizen of the United States. Even if
What is the benefit to the town of Wendell?
we can have more people voting in our elections,
And serving on boards and committees.
and that too.
These are people who, if they are permanent residents, have a vested interest in the town, and in our interest, that's the town participate. This does not include voting in state elections, representatives to legislature elections, those kinds of things. This is only town elections, right? And town meeting, which is not relevant to state and federal elections.
I would speak in favor, Mrs. Stowe. It's people who live in our town, pay taxes, so maybe send their kids to the school, they just don't happen to be citizens. But, so they're not, like you say, whether it be in the state or federal elections, but they're citizens of our town and should have a say. And like you say, participate. And there are people who did participate, they just can't officially participate on some of these boards perhaps. I think they should.
All right, are we ready to, oh, no, we're not ready to vote, okay.
I'm a little nervous, I'm not a public speaker, but Florence Lockford from Bullet Road. And this article wants to see the town, I'm repeating it, will vote to petition the state legislature to grant non-citizen permanent resident aliens in the town of Wendell the ability to vote in all Wendell town meetings, elections, and actions, and to serve on elected and appointed Wendell municipal board and committees. My feeling is, if an individual does not take the time or bother to become a citizen of the United States, then they should not be given the privilege of citizen. Then they should be given the, let me start over. My feeling is, if an individual does not take the time or bother to become a citizen of the United States, then they should not be given the privilege of citizenship. If they want all these privileges, then take the time to become a citizen. I have a friend whose husband is from Canada, and he has been living in the United States for over 60 years. He is a resident alien, and she is a citizen who was born in New Hampshire. He has no interest in becoming a citizen, and for his whole life has not been interested in politics. I called her today to see what her feeling was, and she made no bones about it. A sidebar, not that anybody cares what my friend says, but just to get the perspective of somebody who has a husband who is a resident alien. Saying that if someone does not want to become a citizen of the United States or does not want to take the time to see it through, then they should not have the privilege of voting and other privileges that are allowed to citizens of the United States. And that's all I have to say.
Anna Georgie, 426 Jensen Road. I want to speak in favor of this amendment. We're talking about our friends and our neighbors and people who are super active in town. Alistair Martin is Canadian. He worked on the town, meeting house, has been so active in town. Luke Boudin is active in so many activities on the common, from Tai Chi to on and on and on. And one of my very first town meetings, they were sitting behind a fence in the back of the room. And I think this is very fair and open. They pay taxes, they work here, and they should be able to be fully active in our town.
Renee Lazaris, Herman Hall Road. I don't know much about immigration law, but I do know that it's not just a matter of not taking the time to be a citizen. Oftentimes, the process that if they very much want to become a citizen takes an unbelievable amount of time and money. And while they're trying to do that, if they want to vote in the town that they live in, they should be absolutely able to. Yeah, that's, yeah.
I know Alistair and I love him, he's a great guy. And I'm sure he's a very intelligent man who would figure out how to get his citizenship. He's been in Wendell a long time. And I just think if they're not gonna bother to try and become a citizenship, then why should we make a special allowance for them? I don't know, that's just how I feel.
Doug Tanner, I can certainly understand the sentiment of regarding citizenship, but in this particular case, I just have to reiterate that this is only town business we're talking about. It's not federal or state or any other bureaucratic business, it's just the town of Wendell. It would be like if you were in a congregation. And this is like in a way, a congregation of 986 people or something like that. And whoever comes in and is in the congregation, they have to participate in what the congregation is doing for that day. You know, and that's really all this is. Instead of like allowing people who are here now to participate in the process that arrives in their immediate lives, nothing beyond that. There's nothing to do with citizenship.
Yeah, I think in answer to Chris Weeks' question, what benefit does Wendell derive from this? I think Anna answered in one way, which is we get more people to vote, to be involved in the process. We get people to help rebuild the meeting house and the police station next door, because Alistair basically did that already, so, and all these other people that may be in the process of becoming a citizen or may not, but if they want to be in the, they want to help to enrich the town, they're here and they should be given the opportunity to do that. I see no reason against it, really. It's not a lack of civic responsibility that would keep it back. It's simply, as you say, the wall or the fence that we erected in the back of the room to keep them from being more involved. Call a question.
You know,
Oh, there's more.
I don't see any hands, so I think that we are ready to vote. That's okay.
Why are we going to the state legislature? Don't we have the power to say who votes in our town?
No.
We don't. That's disturbing.
All right, I think we are ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion under this article to grant non-citizen permanent residents to vote in Wendell Town meetings, elections, and actions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, it carries by a majority. Article 26.
I move that the town votes to affirm the select board's intention to designate the town website, wendellmass.us, as the official posting place for warrants, meeting notices, and other public notices to fulfill the meeting notice requirements of the open meeting law, as well as the select board's intention to continue to post hard copies of same on the town office's bulletin board. Second.
So we have a motion and a second in finance committee. No. And Anna Weatherby has information for us.
This is more just facts. I'll try to keep them brief, but they are based on Massachusetts general law, and that's the town clerk. It does fall to my responsibility to uphold the Massachusetts general law about meeting postings. So if we were to pass this article this evening, it does not take immediate effect. I have to run it by the Attorney General's office. I have to get approval back from the Attorney General's office. They won't disapprove it. They just need to know we're doing that. And until the approval has come in, we cannot start doing this. In addition to that, all regular 48 hours meeting notice postings still take effect. The benefit is that we have a 24-hour website as opposed to an infrequent hour town office building. So time and date stamps are mandatory, but they're easier to track that way. However, all notices still need to be filed with the town clerk or the appropriate person, which for this time has been the town coordinator, as they have more office hours than I do. And there is one further point, which is that the process of posting meeting notices on our town website need to be clearly listed in an accessible place 24 hours a day. That would be outside our town offices, with all of the steps required and all of the legal ramifications of not posting within the 48 hours and then holding a meeting. So everything just needs to be clear and very publicly viewed, and we have the ability to do that. I'm well in favor of this. I just want to let you know, nothing changes until the Attorney General says, cool, go for it.
Sure. I also want to make clear that we are in the process of putting a new website together, not me, website committee, powers that be who are involved in that. This is not something that we would plan on trying to put into place until that new website is established. So that's not clarified here, but it's if this was approved, we would let people know when we started that change, the new process. Do you have anything else?
That was the main thing.
I'll do planning board. I would love this so much. That's my comment. I like left dinner cooking to run down to those meetings because I remembered a Thursday at 6:45 and to post by 7 o'clock for a Monday meeting. It'd be so nice to be able to do that on my phone, on my computer. Yes.
Jenny Rose Stone Road, so I'm in support of this. This is long overdue. But I really want to be sure that when we do it, it's done consistently. And there may be one page for notices and not on each board's page, buried in a different location, because that would just really screw things up. So if we do it, we gotta do it right.
And that's why we're waiting for the new website, and the new website may have a very special system for, just for meetings.
Just don't do it until we do it right.
Yeah.
That's my only input. Thanks.
The person who's posted many a meeting, I think that the way the law is now and the postal site being at town office, it like the open meeting law discriminates against people with disabilities and discriminates against people with transportation issues. Or for that matter, other kinds of problems that make it impossible or nearly impossible to then get to the town office. Used to be we could do it by email. That's not an option anymore. This is clearly the best option that we could possibly have.
Okay, with the question been called and seconded, all those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, we will vote on affirming the select board's intention to designate the town website as the official posting place. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 27.
I move that the town votes pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, to 1, increase the maximum qualifying gross receipts amount or income allowance for persons applying for a property tax deferral under said clause from the current limit of $20,000 as follows: to $32,000, up from $30,000 for a single individual who is not the head of household, to $40,000, up from $38,000 for a head of household, and to $48,000, up from $45,000 for married couples filing a joint income tax return. And 2, to decrease the interest rate on taxes deferred under said clause from the statutory rate of 8%
to 6.5%. Such limits and interest rate to be effective for the fiscal year starting July 1st, 2023. Second.
Okay, a motion and second and finance committee.
I'll just speak to this briefly. This is something that does come up every year, and it's a program we've had out for a number of years. As far as I know, it has not been utilized yet. And so we have to reset these numbers each year. And we've tried to make it as available as possible. And this is hopefully a way to keep people in their homes instead of going into debt. Tax non-payment. It's a great option. We're hoping somebody will take it up soon.
Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor of increasing the maximum qualifying gross receipts amounts for income, for tax, property tax deferral. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 28.
I move that the town votes to authorize the select board to declare certain items as surplus and to trade in or sell surplus equipment. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, finance committee. Okay. Any discussion about surplus equipment? All right, we'll vote to authorize the select board to declare certain items as surplus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 29.
I move that the town votes to apply for, accept, and expend any federal, state, and private monies such as community development block grants, public safety grants, Massachusetts Public Library Construction Fund, etc. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second, finance committee. All right, discussion about accepting grants. All right, all those in favor of applying for accepting, expending grants. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Okay, that carries unanimously. Article 30.
I move that we dissolve the meeting. Second.
All those in favor of dissolving the meeting?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we are dissolved.
Thank you.
That was a long one.